Imagine being laughed at just because you're poor. How does it feel? You have no one to protect you. You have no one to stand up for you. You have no one to care for you. Your whole life is filled with pain and suffering. All the people around you treat you with disrespect and abuse. Even the wealthy can stoop low to insult and hurt the weak. Here is another story about such an innocent person who had faith in God. This story is going to show you how one day the tables turn and those who abused him end up begging for his help. So stay tuned till the end. Once upon a time, there was a poor young man named Gareeb who earned his living looking after his sheep. He was a simple shepherd who didn't have much, but he was content with what he had. Despite his modest lifestyle, Kare was often mocked and ridiculed by the other villagers who were wealthier than him. They would call him names, make fun of his clothes, and try to make his life miserable. They thought that he was weak and couldn't do anything to stop them because he was poor. Among the worst of them was Omar, a rich merchant who lived in a big house and wore fine clothes. He was the leader of the group that tormented Kare, and he took great pleasure in humiliating him. Kare tried to ignore them and their taunts, but it became too much to bear, so he decided to confront them. He went to Omar's house and demanded that he put an end to the harassment. But Omar wasn't afraid of him, and he continued to mock him, saying that he was just a poor shepherd and didn't have the power to do anything to him. Kare was furious and wanted to fight back, but he knew that he couldn't win a fight against someone like Omar. So he did something that surprised everyone. He went to the local leaders and told them about what Omar and the other villagers had been doing to him. He expected them to side with Omar because he was one of them and Kare was just a poor guy. But to his surprise, the leaders agreed that Omar and the others had been behaving badly and ordered them to apologize to him. Kare was happy with the outcome, but Omar was furious. He couldn't believe that he had been ordered to apologize to a poor shepherd, and he vowed to make him pay for what he had done. From that day on, Omar and the other villagers started to harass Kare and his family even more. They made his life miserable and tried to drive him out of the village. But Kare was determined to stay and fight back in his own way. He knew that he couldn't defeat them with violence, so he decided to use his faith in God. Kare started praying day and night and asked God to help him get revenge on those who had wronged him. He believed that God would listen to his prayers and help him get the revenge he deserved. At the same time, Kare continued to live his life as a shepherd and took care of his sheep. He didn't let the harassment get to him, and he stayed strong in his faith. One day, something amazing happened. One of Kare's sheep gave birth to a beautiful lamb that was bigger and healthier than any other lamb in the flock. Kare was overjoyed and knew that this was a blessing from God. He took good care of the lamb, and it grew quickly and became the biggest and most valuable sheep in his flock. As the weeks passed, Kare's flock grew bigger and stronger, and he became known throughout the village for his healthy and beautiful sheep. People from neighboring villages also came to buy his sheep, and they were amazed by the quality and health of his flock. Kare was happy with his success and knew that it was God who had blessed him. He didn't forget the hard times he had gone through and the injustice he had faced, but he knew that God had helped him turn the situation around. Meanwhile, Omar and the other villagers who had tormented Kare were facing their own problems. Their crops were failing and their animals were getting sick and dying. They were worried and didn't know what to do. One day, Omar and the other villagers went to Kare and asked him for help. They wanted to buy some of his sheep to start their own flocks, but Kare refused to sell them any. He knew that they only wanted to buy his sheep because they had no other choice and he didn't want to help them. However, one of the villagers, Yakeen, who was a wise old man, went to Kare's house and begged him to sell him some sheep. Yakeen was one of the few villagers who had untormented Kare, and he was a good friend of Kare's father. Kare considered Yakeen's request and decided to sell him some sheep. He knew that Hakim wouldn't hurt him and he could trust him. In the following weeks, Hakim's flock started to grow and become stronger, and he was able to sell some of his sheep for a profit. He was grateful to Kare for helping him and promised to never forget what he had done for him. The other villagers saw Hakim's success and they tried to persuade Kare to sell them some sheep, but Kare refused to sell them any. He knew that they had only realized the error of their ways and they wouldn't change. The villagers were furious and they went to Kare's house and demanded that he sell them some sheep. They threatened him and his family and said that they wouldn't stop until he gave in. Kare was scared, but he didn't give in to their demands. He knew that he had done nothing wrong and he wasn't going to let them bully him. When Omar heard about what had happened, he went to Kare's house with a group of angry villagers. He confronted Kare and demanded that he sell him some sheep. But Kare refused to listen to him and he started to pray. He asked God to help him get through this difficult time and to protect him from harm. To his surprise, when Kare finished his prayer, Omar and the other villagers fell to their knees and begged for forgiveness. They admitted that they had been wrong to torment him and his family and asked him to forgive them. Kare was shocked and didn't know what to do. He had never imagined that they would come and beg for forgiveness. After a long pause, Kare finally forgave them and sold them some of his sheep. He knew that holding on to anger and hatred would only hurt him, and he was ready to move on with his life. The villagers were grateful for Kare's forgiveness, and they promised to never bother him again. They also apologized for what they had done to his family and promised to treat them with respect. From that day on, the villagers treated Kare with respect and admiration. They recognized that he was a strong and virtuous man who had overcome adversity with faith and dignity. Kare, on the other hand, continued to live his life as a shepherd and take care of his flock. He never forgot the hard times he had gone through, but he was grateful for the lessons he had learned and the strength he had gained. And that's how, thanks to his belief in God, he got the best revenge on those who tormented him. So that's the end of our story. And if you liked this story, then don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe so you never miss out on any of our stories. See you next time.